Well, in what was supposed to be a night all about the end of the legendary careers of Dwyane Wade and Dirk Nowitzki, Magic Johnson decided to put the cherry on top of one of the most disappointing single seasons in Laker history by suddenly announcing in a surprise press conference that he would be stepping away from his president of basketball operations role with the team. News that he decided to share with basically nobody within the organization prior to stepping in front of the mic. There were no rumblings or rumors about Magic potentially leaving leading up to all this. No news of issues within the front office, nothing. Really, the only things that we'd heard from the Lakers side of things in a while is that Luke Walton is probably going to be fired after the season, but somehow Walton actually ended up outlasting Magic. He rambled on for an extreme amount of time in an attempt to justify his decision to the press, talking about how he felt shackled by the time commitment that the position required, something that Woj was very quick to point out in a series of pretty emotionally charged tweets when considering the typically neutral tone that we're used to seeing from him, while also simply stating that he wasn't happy as a front office executive for one of the most prestigious franchises the NBA has to offer. And on the surface, I have no issue with Magic stepping away from a job that he wasn't fully invested in, and again, if you're hearing Woj's side of the story here, Magic was never really all in when it came to his role with the team anyway. And honestly, it doesn't bother me that much that he walked away. Everybody has a right to seek out their own happiness, and that wasn't happening for Magic, so he just bailed. And that's fine, but he really couldn't have gone about it much worse than he did. The press conference itself seemed to have just been called on a whim, and none of Magic's colleagues within the team were made aware of the decision any sooner than any of us fans were. And not only that, but the rambling nature of his comments quickly made it clear how little thought actually went into this decision, which furthers the perception that things just got too difficult and that this shouldn't be seen as Magic walking away because he wasn't happy, but rather that he just straight up quit on the team. Because this Lakers season, one that was set up by roster moves that Magic and Rob Pelinka were very proud of and were quick to take credit for back in the offseason, has completely gone off the rails, with a multitude of injuries, losing streaks, team turmoil, and worst of all, being completely outmaneuvered by the Pelicans in the Anthony Davis trade talks fiasco, leading to the team being essentially knocked out of the playoff race and going into full tank mode way earlier in the year than most people would have predicted. And as things continued to go wrong for the Lakers, more of the blame was beginning to be piled on Magic and the front office as well. Those roster moves in the offseason that were supposed to create this new kind of team around LeBron that we'd never seen before, aka completely devoid of the kind of spacing that has continually proved necessary to get the most out of him, letting Julius Randle and Brook Lopez walk as they've become critical to their new teams, and going back even further than that, trading away a promising young guard for a late first-round pick just to dump a big salary, and then watching him become a first-time All-Star at just 23 years old. Now, to be fair to Magic, the D'Lo trade might have never happened if the previous front office didn't sign Timofey Mozgov and Luol Deng to awful contracts, and Kyle Kuzma has proven to be a nice return in that trade as well. But giving up on D'Lo so quickly still has to be categorized as a big mistake, the first in a long line of them during the Magic as president of basketball ops era. And as you look through all the moves he made in that position, how many of them can actually be considered positive? I mean, they've drafted relatively well. Lonzo Ball, Kuzma, and Josh Hart are all important pieces to the team moving forward, and signing LeBron was a gigantic win for them. Although arguments are being made that the team's young core would have been better served to keep growing without LeBron. But other than that, nothing else really sticks out in a positive way. It's basically just a handful of either insignificant trades / free agency signings, big mistakes like the D'Lo deal, and other trades that haven't worked out for the team at all. And looking through the official list of moves is actually pretty kind because it doesn't even account for the damage of the AD saga or the tampering issues on the franchise as a whole moving forward. And I say all of that to say, even though this situation isn't great for Lakers fans, 9 months ago, they were celebrating signing the best player in the league as a free agent, and now the face of their franchise has quit on his job in the front office without telling anyone beforehand. Their coach is about to be fired, and the future of the team as it relates to LeBron, the possibility of signing another star in free agency, and the viability of their quote-unquote young core are all entirely up in the air. But you should still be excited about this news if you're a fan of the team. The circumstances aren't great. It makes the franchise as a whole look like idiots, as has most of this season, but one of the worst decision makers in the league over the past 2 years no longer has a say in the future of the team. and that is a huge win. And before some of you say that it's a bit too harsh to give that label to Magic, consider not only the list of moves I just talked about in the last section, but also the insider info that Woj so aggressively let us in on. The fact that Magic was so clueless about the time commitment required to successfully run an NBA franchise is mind-boggling to me, and there are really only two ways to view his role in all of this failure in the context of Woj's tweet. Either he wasn't prepared or committed enough at all to fulfill his role and was basically an absentee figurehead, which essentially leaves a crucial cog in the organizational structure completely missing, which is obviously a huge negative, or he was equally as unprepared and lacked commitment to his position, but still decided to be the final decision maker anyway, leading to many of these awful mistakes. And I get it, it isn't fair to just pile on all of the blame for these mistakes on one person. The entire front office is responsible for every decision that is made, and everybody has a role to play. But when you combine his apparent lack of interest in his job and the continued failures of the team that he was supposedly in charge of, a lot of the blame does have to be directed towards the now former president of basketball operations of the LA Lakers, Magic Johnson. Moving forward for this team, I have honestly no idea what is going to happen. This kind of turmoil, in addition to the likely firing of Luke Walton as head coach after the season, doesn't send a great message to potential free agents. As Knicks fans will tell you, the attraction of a big market and a ton of cap space isn't anywhere close to a foolproof plan when it comes to signing big names. It worked on LeBron, sure, who probably feels equally as blindsided by this because his relationship with Magic must have had something to do with his decision to join the Lakers, but there is little indication that signing LeBron and the benefits of LA are enough to convince a max contract level player to be his sidekick. Maybe getting rid of Magic and potentially getting a competent replacement for him will spark a turnaround. Or maybe the long-term plan for the franchise relied too much on his charisma to try and sign more stars, which obviously is no longer an option, and it's just going to be the same core of young guys plus LeBron for the next few years in LA while running into the brick wall of legit Western Conference contenders. I mean, maybe they do manage to sign a max level player this summer, or the lottery ping pong balls fall their way and that stroke of luck puts them back on track. But the crazy thing is that those are both big reaches and not all that likely, but that's kind of what they're counting on to have any kind of success moving forward. And it's shocking how quickly things have soured in LA within Magic's tenure and within one season of signing LeBron. And to me, that is the biggest takeaway of this entire thing. The complete failure that the 2018-19 NBA season has been for the Lakers. Not making the playoffs after signing LeBron, basically all of their attempts to improve their team turning out to have the exact opposite effect, and watching one of their former draft picks blossom into an all-star caliber player. All of it just became too much for Magic, and he didn't want to try and stick it out and turn it around. He quit. It's just that simple. Things weren't going well for him or his team, and he bailed on them. If they had signed Paul George last offseason to play with LeBron and the team was a top 4 seed in the West right now, or if they'd managed to trade for Anthony Davis to pair with LeBron, or maybe even both, or if their chances of signing a max free agent this summer seemed higher than they do right now, I can promise you that Magic Johnson never would have had this press conference. If things were going well, he'd still be the president of basketball operations, whether he was committing the proper time to the position or not. But the bottom line is, this is good news for the Lakers. He wasn't good at his job, nor was he fully committed to it. Things went south, he quit, and as a result, the Lakers are better off. I don't know if this will definitely be the turning point for this group, or if there even will be one during this era. A scenario in which an aging LeBron continues to struggle to get a similar version of this year's team to the playoffs for the next few years is becoming fairly likely at this point, in my opinion. And the task of breaking out of the current playoff drought and out of the cellar of one of the worst records in the league over that time span doesn't seem all that close to completion. But the irony in all this is that for 2 years, Magic Johnson had a say in the decisions that were supposed to help improve the franchise moving forward, to increase their chances of winning a championship. And for 2 years, he rarely made the correct moves. But this decision, his final one in the Lakers front office to step away from the team, might end up being the best decision of his entire tenure. And that is going to be the end of today's video. My name is Tucker. I thank you all very much for watching. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.